article of the majority leader, Senator Jim Hendren. The majority leader, Senator Jim Hendren, said that they are close, but they don't have the votes yet. And I think that was in an article on the special election of District 16, which has, from what I can tell, only one non-establishment candidate running, which is Mr. Bob Bailey. So the non-establishment candidate's not going to vote the way they want them to. The establishment candidates obviously would vote the way they want them to. Hey, before we get to this, though, can we go down memory lane one more time about Senator Jim Hendren? After Senator Jim Hendren put forth a bill in 2015 to, quote, end Medicaid expansion, and he, in fact, did not end Medicaid expansion, and conservatives were misled at the very least. And we have the audio. We went over it last week. This program was expanding, and we were getting other affiliates to pick it up, and our first affiliate was an affiliate in Russellville, which used to be KCBM, is now in Russellville on KARV. And so it was interesting that Senator Hendren was going to speak at the Tri-County Tea Party in the Russellville area. And so I decided, and what the program was telling folks the truth, just like we're doing now. We were getting out there. We were saying, hey, guys, we're being lied to here, basically, because the program doesn't do what they say it's going to do. They actually want to keep it. They actually want to continue giving hospitals a guaranteed revenue stream, guaranteed by us, the taxpayers. And so, it's growing government. It's not doing what they say it's going to do. And I thought we were Republicans here. Basically doing the exact same thing I'm doing now. So I go and I decide to do I did the show, from the affiliate in Russellville, and then I decided to attend this Tea Party meeting, and because I wanted to hear what Senator Hendren had to say to this group of Tea Partiers, because, when he was in front of a bunch of conservatives in the basement of the Marble Palace, he was saying how he just trust him, he's going to end the program, and in fact, the cat was out of the bag. His bill didn't do that. Matter of fact, it said we have to guarantee coverage for the new population. So I go and I listen to the majority leader of the Arkansas Senate, and he has a slideshow, and I am part of the slideshow. It was very awkward. I was in the audience. And he puts my picture up on the slideshow and criticizes me because our whiteboard a couple of weeks prior to this said task farce. Because, and that obviously has been a phrase that has stuck, because they want to govern by task forces, and I think they're a complete joke and a farce and a way to actually disenfranchise our duly elected representatives to represent us, because instead you only have a few special legislators that get to make decisions on our behalf, and it's very frustrating to me. And I thought to myself, good grief, I'm right over the target. If the majority leader of the Arkansas Senate is going to new broadcast areas where we are now in a new population of people across Arkansas, and we're speaking our truth, and he's going to the Tea Party, and he's putting my picture up and telling them that I'm actually wrong, I thought, wow, what a compliment. So I just figured I'd just tell you guys that. That's a nice memory lane stuff. So Senator Hendren over the weekend tweeted this. Joe, throw this up on the screen. Senator Hendren tweeted that his prayer, he said, quote, "My prayer for the Arkansas legislature as we prepare for fiscal session. Lord, let us do what's right for the people. Let us seek your will. Let us do what's best regardless of political consequences. And please, dear God, let us never look like Congress." So that's his prayer. He put that out on Twitter. Now, he actually put it in quotation.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
All right, folks, good morning to you. Thanks so much for being with us. My name is Paul. Thank you. The phone number, if you want to call or text or sound off, 870-275-9799. Also, you can check us out on Facebook.com/Conduit News, where we already got a semi-healthy Facebook live video going. So feel free. All right, so Joe, I guess I told you a couple minutes ago. I said, this segment that we're about to do is going to make a lot of power brokers in the Marble Palace pretty upset. And what your response, Joe, was, well, that's never stopped us before. It's like, oh, okay, well, all right, that's a good point. I needed to be reminded of that today.
The train doesn't stop.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, here's the thing. The folks down, the folks at Little Rock have an agenda. There's no question. The agenda is special interest driven. They're, aside from Conduit, there really isn't, there isn't an active push, okay, to restore or allow the people to have more liberty and freedom. The special interests, let's just get this out of the way. There's nothing illegal this is a realm where people are competing, and you have businesses, they hire lobbyists, and then the lobbyists go down and they try to work out a deal that's best for whatever industry that they represent. That is the system that we have. That is what goes on. And what ends up happening is you get a government that doesn't necessarily reflect the majority of the people. You have politicians that have to put up with lobbyists asking them to go against everything they told you on the campaign trail almost every single day. Hey, will you do the opposite of what you told your constituents? Hey, will you do the opposite of what you told your constituents next day? Hey, I'm going to really need you to do this. I know it's not what you said on the campaign trail. And they have to put up with this barrage of special interests. That's the environment that you send folks down there with. And so when lobbyists get involved in political races and candidates, you kind of know who they expect. You can kind of anticipate who they expect is going to be down with the status quo. So this all started. This has to do once again with the Senate special election for District 16. And I have told you we've had Mr. Bob Bailey on. He's the Republican candidate that's running. He's been on the show several times. I've enjoyed interviewing him. He says he's not the establishment, and he has positions publicly to back it up. We did a piece on Friday. We did a piece where Bob Bailey was commenting on the Talk Business and Politics article that had him, he was quoted as saying, hey, I'm against Arkansas Works because it's a giant scam, essentially. And the other two Republican candidates in that race, Breanne Davis and Luke Heffley, said that they were for it, or they were going to basically protect the status quo. And we were reporting on that article. Well, the video of that segment then got shared around Facebook, and it eventually was helpful to a woman on Facebook named Frances. This was back on January the 19th. And she writes, I've been looking for a side-by-side comparison of the candidates for this primary. Thank you for posting. And it's a shared post of Conduit News. And it says Luke Heffley for Obamacare, Arkansas Works, Bob Bailey against, Breanne Davis for. And then it says there's a Republican primary special election for Senate District 16 in the Russellville-Pope County area on February 13th. The 3 Republicans vying for the seat have now all gone on the record on their positions on Obamacare Arkansas Works program. Here, Conduit News Radio's Paul Harrell break down their positions in this video, and that's all it is. Well, so then there's an interesting post. There's a guy who appears to be a Breanne Davis supporter named Eric, and gets on this Francis's post and trashes Conduit and, says Conduit's owned by an organization that has multiple PACs and things like that. And I first of all, I thought, what is an industry? And it's only the people, when people who want more liberty and freedom for everybody, want a smaller government, want everybody to be left alone, those are and who are participating in the political process, those are the people that get called out by the establishment as because you shouldn't be there, because it goes against the status quo. It goes against the power structure that is really keeping people's pocketbooks thick. It's keeping people's wallets thick down there. And the idea of making government smaller means that there's going to be less money to go around, less guaranteed taxpayer revenue streams to fund this project or that project or this business or that business. And that's really what the battle is here, is making government less powerful than what it can do to other people by force. That's my goal. So I decided to do a little investigating. The great folks at Conduit News decided to do a little investigating, and here's what we found out. All right, if you want to start talking about who is backed by who, take a look at this. Take a look at this graphic right here. Check this out. All right, this was actually posted in the thread. This is a invitation. Okay. This is an invitation to a fundraiser for Breanne Davis. Look, a fundraising reception honoring Breanne Davis, the state Senate district special election. This was a fundraiser that happened Friday, December 1st, and look at who's hosting it. Look at this list. You have Senator Cecile Bledsoe, but then you have a bunch of names that, who are these people? Justin Allen, Terry Benham, Katie Burns, Mike Callan, Ricky Cross, Chase Duggar, know who he is. Keith Emus, know who he is. Miles Goggins, Ashley Goler, Bruce Hawkins. Well, Bruce Hawkins gave that loan to Jake Files. Tom Kennedy, James and Lisa Miller, Ted and Julie Mullinex, Teresa Oakey, Derek Smith, Don Tilton. Well, look at the graphic that this has. You see the lines that are tied to each lobbyist. So on this invitation, we have lobbyists from the medical marijuana industry, the healthcare industry, big pharma, the Medicaid industry, gambling industry, alcohol, corporate welfare, the internet tax, and tobacco. And there's lines drawn to each one of them. Now, this is why I said this is going to make a lot of people mad, because this graphic is obviously going to go across Facebook. It's going to inject an element of truth and just information, and do what you want to with the information. Again, there's nothing wrong in terms of legality with all of these industries having lobbyists, and these lobbyists trying to affect certain races. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that, or backing certain candidates. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just the system that we live in. But if we want to talk as grassroots, limited government people that really know what the problem is special interest. The problem is the status quo. And so you just look at who. I mean, here's the other side. Richard Bearden, Kamek Bogus, John Burris. Hi, John Burris. There he is, former state representative who was, couldn't make the jump to the Senate because he voted for Medicaid expansion. Marvin Childers, Leanne Dietz, Blake Edens, Dennis and Vicky Farmer, Jenna Goldman, Leo Hosser, Jeff Hoggard, Mitchell Lowe, Ark Monroe, Shannon Newton, Marvin Parks, Charlie Spakes, Jody Ann Tritt. She's a lobbyist for well, let's just follow the line, shall we? She's from the Arkansas Hospital Association, so she gets a red line. She gets a red line and a orange line
The orange line's from lobbyists for Medicaid, essentially, and then the red line lobbyists for health care. I mean, you know, if you're in the Arkansas Hospital Association, you certainly want that. Bill Vickery. I mean, it's amazing. Look at this. So it's no question, okay, which, in my opinion, just based on this, which candidate is for the status quo. We even have a breakdown of this. Take a look at this. If you don't like the lines in the graphic, I mean, you can just see this right here, this document. We've broken down each one of these lobbyists here, okay, and you can tell. I mean, let's just pick one. Let's pick one here. What do we want to pick? Let's go with Bruce Hawkins. Okay, he's hosting this thing for Breanne Davis, or hosted it. Lobbyists for DBH Consultants, $80,000 loan to Jake Files. Clients are the Arkansas Ambulance Association, the Arkansas Foundation for Medical Care, CVS Health, Delta Dental, Reliance Healthcare, Shelter Insurance, Southland Park Gaming and Racing, Gambling. Right? So that's pretty interesting. And look, go up to the top, Joe. Go up to the very top of this document. Now zoom in here. So this is the original This is the original document right there. That's the original fundraiser. Okay, the original invitation rather. And then you see the other one. Now go to the new one. Go to the one that's actually been doctored to educate people about what this means. There we go. Okay, you see the difference. Again, this is the system that's had. But I mean, if we're talking about, let me do this. Okay, let's go back to that Facebook post. Here we go. We're going to go back to the Facebook post. This is a woman by the name of Frances on Facebook. She's posting this piece from Conduit News, right? And then then you have this guy named Eric coming on and trashing Conduit. So I decided to check out Eric's Facebook page. If you go over to Eric's Facebook page, you have a video from Breanne Davis right there. Okay, she's the candidate all these lobbyists through the fundraiser for, so you know who's backing her. You know, I mean, when we sit here and we ask, Bob Bailey, is he the establishment candidate? The premise of the first question when we had him on the first time was there's clearly always a candidate that's going to be loyal to Asa because he's Asa, because he's the governor, and he knows there is a divide within this state among the conservative movement that's trying to use the Republican Party to, suppose if you just go by the platform, there shouldn't be a divide, but there is a divide because there's there's the status quo. There are the gatekeepers here, okay? And so this was interesting because this led me to basically the only time I've heard Breanne Davis speak. And we have an audio clip of it, and this is what she said. Listen, this is Breanne Davis talking about her experience with as a member of the Russellville School Board, and this is part of what she said.
The Russellville School District's budget is larger than the city and our county budget combined. I know what it's like to vote on something that may not be popular and have the resolve to do it anyways because I believe it was the right thing. It's not always easy, but it's always necessary.
Okay, my goodness. Can we hear that statement one more time? One more time.
The Russellville School District's budget is larger than the city and our county budget combined.
Okay.
I know what it's like to vote on something that may not be popular and have the resolve to do it anyways because I believe it was the right thing. It's not always easy, but it's always necessary.
Okay. So there's not a lot of ways to take that statement. I mean, there may be more than one, but there's certainly not a lot of ways to take that statement. Now, the only thing I would say is, okay, let's just take Arkansas Works or funding for it. She is on record as saying, look, essentially, and I'm paraphrasing here, but we're keeping the status quo. We're going to do whatever Asa wants. I mean, that's the gist of this, all right? And say what you want, but among the lobbyists, Arkansas Works, which is a minority of people, but among the lobbyists, Arkansas Works is a very, very popular thing. It's a very, very popular program. Among the people, not so much. Among the people getting up, going to work today right now, who are having to pay taxes so people who can work but choose not to can get free health insurance, It's not a very popular thing. So, I mean, what does that say when you say, I know how to just vote what I think is right, even if it's unpopular. Now, keep in mind, that is the basic tenet of our republic, in terms of there are times that people get in situations where they maybe vote the opposite of the will of the people, and then it's their job to come back and explain or convince the people they did the right thing with their argument, okay? Which people who support Arkansas Works can't do that because the facts on their side. It's not a conservative thing. But this isn't. She's not in office yet. She's not in office yet. Okay, she is running for office, and she's telling you that if she believes it strongly, it doesn't matter what you say. That she's gonna do the unpopular thing, which right now, folks, I'm telling you, if you go issue by issue and you start saying, look, this is Obamacare Medicaid expansion, and we have massive Republican majorities, and they simply refuse to lead this state out of Obamacare, that's a very unpopular statement. It's a very unpopular statement right now. Play it one more time, Joe. Go for it.
The Russellville School District's budget is larger than the city and our county budget combined. I know what it's like to vote on something that may not be popular and have the resolve to do it anyways because I believe it was the right thing.
Yeah.
It's not always easy, but it's always necessary.
So here we go, folks. Again, back to that invitation put on by all these people. We have lobbyists from medical marijuana on there, healthcare, big pharma, Medicaid, gambling, alcohol, corporate welfare, internet tax, and tobacco. Oh, what about the internet tax? That's not a very popular thing among the people. Well, if I believe it strongly enough, I'll do what's not popular. By the way, this is a campaign video. I appreciate the honesty. I think it allows people to make an informed decision. And right now, there's a very important primary coming up. And, February, in 3 weeks. And so those of you listening on KARV out of Russellville, 610 AM, 101.3 FM, you guys have an important decision to make. Do you believe in, and you need to make an informed one. I mean, good grief, if you like the status quo, vote accordingly, vote what you think. If you don't like the status quo, vote who you think. I just want you to have the information. And doing a little investigation here, you can figure out, okay, well, here's all these lobbyists that are supporting, and all these lobbyists, certainly they seem to have a consensus, and they're supporting Breanne Davis. All right, we've got to take a break, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go anywhere. This is Conduit News Radio. I'm Paul Harrell. Back in just a moment.
If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
In a world full of constituents with social media accounts, bloggers just looking to increase their page views, and a talk radio host who generally is just the worst, how are Little Rock's elite supposed to conduct business with such a lack of privacy? Introducing the 1835 Club, older and more refined than other clubs that claim discretion. The 1835 Club is for seasoned political veterans that want to conduct the highest form of aristocratic business with the public's money. Are you a schemer? Do you someday want a guaranteed flow of taxpayer money to support your business? Is it your dream to see the .gov domain at the end of your business website? Don't listen to the imitators. The 1835 Club is the place where corrupt politicians and businessmen hatch their next crony schemes. At the 1835 Club, we make lobbying safe and legal. Ethics. Why, of course. All business is done in an ethical manner. Just look for the sign above the door that reads, loophole. Are you tired of the Capitol Police restricting your access to the roof after a perfectly good night of drinking? The 1835 Club has libations and a perfectly good roof. Other crony clubs that promise discretion try to lure you in by advertising bars made out of aeroplanes. Well, at the 1835 Club, instead of an airplane fuselage, we've got a space shuttle. No, not a bar. We've got an actual space shuttle that makes a daily run to the moon so members of the 1835 Club can have some real privacy away from the bloggers and taxpayers. Are you an Arkansas aristocrat? Do you want to be? It's the 1835 Club, and we work tirelessly to make sure the good old boy system remains alive and well. Join today.
Disclaimer. The 1835 Club reserves the right to deny membership to anyone who has principles. Any talk of the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution must be done in jest or, at the very least, with a condescending tone. And finally, the 1835 Club will be given a 25% commission of any agreements made between politicians and the business community.
PHP Parody.
Exposing the truth and everything the Marble Palace establishment keep trying to cover up. It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right, good morning. Good morning. I'd like to say good morning to Levita, listening on Facebook.com/Conduit News. She writes, Happy Tuesday, Paul, and the show. This is funny. A lot of people like to wish the show a happy I see that a lot on Facebook. They say, morning, everyone, and the show. Morning to the show. Well, morning to you guys. We appreciate it. We appreciate all the listeners out there. Hey, I want you to know the investigative reporting that we just conducted on the special election for Senate District 16, diving into the lobbyists and how everyone's connected on that Breanne Davis invitation. We're going to do the same thing for Bob Bailey. We're going to do the same thing for Luke Heffley as well as we lead up to this. So, and by the way, Mr. Heffley and Breanne Davis, look, I know I have very strong opinions. It's because I have been watching Arkansas politics longer than you. Let me say that. First of all, I have been doing this, and I have been invested in this in terms of speaking the truth about what's going on to the people and been concerned with it longer than you. And I just want to say you're welcome on the program. I would love to have a discussion with you about these issues so we can really dive in and get into how, I mean, folks, you have to understand something. We're running out of time here. But to continue pushing the status quo, and you being a newcomer to this, a newcomer into the politics, saying I'm now getting into the politics of it, I have to believe that you just don't understand how the people who are the power brokers have been wrong about Medicaid expansion in Arkansas time and time again. And I, for one, am done entertaining the idea that those same people are credible today. He said, my prayer for the Arkansas legislature for the fiscal session is, quote. And so I thought, is that him quoting? Because you don't need to put quotes because it's you on Twitter. So everything you say is you. So I was like, is that a quote from something else? and I Googled it, and I couldn't find it. I didn't spend an exhaustive amount of time on it. I probably spent 5 minutes just, I put that in. I couldn't find it. So it could be, attributed to somebody else. But regardless, I got to thinking about this tweet over the weekend, and I thought to myself, is Senator Hendren once again saying that he doesn't have the votes to pass Obamacare Medicaid expansion in the fiscal session? And because when he says at the end here, let us never look like Congress, well, what does Congress look like right now? Well, Congress is shut down. The government is shut down. Congress isn't shut down, but the government is shut down. And so what he's saying is that makes everything look bad and dysfunction. And so let me game this out for you. The funding for Arkansas Works Obamacare will be in the DHS appropriation. Now, it is entirely possible to separate the two and have an up or down vote on just funding for Arkansas Works and then an up or down vote for the rest of the DHS budget. But Jim Hendren, being Asa Hutchinson's nephew, is never going to let that happen because he is all about protecting the status quo and protecting the crony capitalism and protecting your taxpayer dollars going to insurance companies like Blue Cross Blue Shield every month to the tune of $500 per person per month. There's 300,000 people in the program, or I think they said the other day 280,000 is what it's been reduced to. That's still a gargantuan amount of money. And so that's his goal, is to keep that. And I thought we were Republicans, but apparently not. So does that mean if they're not going to separate it out and we're going to be in the same situation that we were in back in 2016 where it just says, hey, we're not going to fund the DHS budget, and then you're at a gridlock. You can't get to the 75% threshold. So is this indicating that they don't have the votes? That's my question, because I'm speculating here, but what I'm speculating is that Senator Jim Hendren saying, and please, dear God, let us never look like Congress. To me, that says if we get to the same point we were in 2016 and you don't have the votes to the 75% threshold, what happens? DHS just doesn't get funded, and to Jim Hendren, that would mean we look like Congress now. So that is my speculation on this. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Feel free to sound off on Facebook. But on secondary, you know what I love?
The intersection of conservative ideas and reality. Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Ultimate goal should be to make sure that every single young person in the state of Arkansas gets the best education that is right for them.
I think as a teacher now at Haas Hall, it's kind of amazing when a student feels really safe and valued, how much they can accomplish or how successful they can be.
Today has been an opportunity for all of the Northwest Arkansas parents to come together and see what options are available for their children. That really pays off, keeps everyone on their toes, and it makes us bring our A game, and knowing that there is competition now. It's not just the four walls and desks and straight lines anymore. We have to make ourselves available to today's learning.
I think it's important because everyone learns differently. I think it should be up to you where you want to go to school, like how big of a school you want to go to, what they offer, whether you're interested in academics or sports or both, and just kind of the environment that you prefer. I think it's important that we not be confined down to only having one choice.
Here in Arkansas, and I wanted to start this next segment with that amazing video, which is from the Northwest Arkansas. What is it? Northwest Arkansas School Choice, NWA School Choice. They put on this event in Springdale. Matter of fact, there's an article that Dave Parazek wrote about this. It's not in a sequential order, Joe. I'm going out of order here. Headline, Springdale Festival highlights school options in Northwest Arkansas. Did you hear that young lady at the end there saying it's just really good not to be confined to one choice? Some superintendent's heads just spun around like, 360 degrees. No! What's wrong with the choice, right? And as I was looking around at that video as we were watching it, I was thinking, well, this is kind of like a job fair, or it's kind of like those if you're a junior or a senior in high school, and you'll have college days where all of these universities will show up and they'll set up tables, and you kind of get to shop around, decide where do you think you want to go to college and that sort of thing. Here's my advice: if you go to college, you better make sure you already know what you want to do. That's my advice to you. And you better have a path forward, because the debt at this point is just faster and faster. It's not becoming worth it unless you have a specific area and you know what you want to do. But anyway, so what's the problem with choice? Well, the problem with choice is right now there is a tendency, I don't care who you are, but there is a tendency for people to want to stick to the way things always have been, to keep the change from actually happening. And anytime the government's involved in funding something and you're trying to say we need to do things differently, or, the concept, I've always loved the concept of, hey, your tax dollars should follow you to where you want to go. And that makes people absolutely crazy when you think of a system like that. But at some point we got to get to a point where is this about the kids and the education? I mean, why do we offer public education? Why do we offer public education? The answer is, well, we offer it because, we want our society to be successful. We want our, economy to be successful. We want kids to know and have the skills to be able to do what they want to do, to pursue their American dream. I mean, there's a ton of reasons why this is a thing. The question is, on this whiteboard right now, though, is the statement on the whiteboard this week is you don't get what you pay for. Because right now, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll take this opportunity to tell you that this particular segment of Conduit News Radio is brought to you by Conduit for Commerce, this is a Conduit for Commerce policy segment. They're on a mission. You can go to conduitforcommerce.org to check out more, putting Arkansas small businesses first. So why would Conduit for Commerce be sponsoring this segment about school choice? And I'll tell you, teaching our kids reading, writing, and arithmetic so Arkansas small business owners have a skilled workforce to choose from, which we don't have one of those right now that's healthy, is a huge boost to our economy. It's a huge boost to Arkansas business owners. If you'll talk to Arkansas business owners for years now, they'll tell you it's hard to get somebody to show up to work on time and pass a drug test. And that, by the way, that we're not even talking about whether or not they can do basic math and read and stuff like that. We are having a problem right now. We have a skilled labor shortage in Arkansas. And so that's the whole basis of this whiteboard. You don't get what you pay for. You're not getting what you pay for. We're already giving the government money to do these things, and that's why school choice is so important, because something has got to give. Something has got to change to try to right what's going on. I mean, they have your kids for 13 years, folks. They have them for 13 years, and now they want more money for workforce training. Okay,
something's not right here. We're not doing something right. And it's not the teacher's fault. It's this entire it's the institution. It's become something that's not or it's deviated from its original mission. Check it out, though. Back to this article, Springdale Festival highlights school choice options. The first of the article, Laura Cole attended the Northwest Arkansas School Choice Festival on Saturday to survey the educational options for her 2 children, ages 7 and 9. Cole's children are homeschooled, but she's looking to place them in one of the area's schools. Her primary concern, what kind of test, if any, the school would require of them to take before enrollment. She was pleased with the experience. She's quoted as saying, Cole, who is a Bentonville resident, they actually had people who knew what they were talking about. If you had a question, they had someone there who could answer your question. Isn't that a novel concept these days? What is that thing on this real quick? What does that say about our expectations interacting with other human beings? Can we just talk about that for a second? If you had a question, they had someone there who could answer your question. It was a good experience. I mean, I'm sorry. I think I have been watching a ton. I have been watching a ton of Seinfeld recently. On Netflix, they recently started airing the comedians in cars getting coffee. That's great. And so they started airing that, and Netflix also has a Seinfeld special. And so he's so observant about these little things. And so this quote is just, if you had a question, they had someone there who could answer your question. Oh, great. Great. This is where our human society is now devolved into just being grateful for basic communication skills. Anyway. All right, so what do we have here? They had a bunch of people who were very passionate. I love this quote here. Listen to this. And what's wrong with this? Why does the educational industrial complex, and that's really what it's becoming. You know, people talk about the military industrial complex, Dwight D. Eisenhower warning about it in his farewell address. Okay, but we are witnessing. We are in. If we don't do something about this, we are in the time where we are watching our education system become an industrialized complex, because you do have corporations involved, you do have people, you have these up-and-coming, quote, businesses, end quote, if you can call them that no, people will throw as much money as you suggest they should at education. And so you have all these private companies like, we want to step in, we want to help you. Folks, here in Arkansas, there was a company that last session wrote themselves into law and then got a no-bid contract. And everybody's like, you violated the procurement process. How could you do that? You violated the procurement process. And the legislators, they came back, the legislative council, and they said, well, they actually wrote themselves into the law. So the law that was written basically dictated specifically that they were the only ones that could offer this specific patent phrase, which is group learning, but they called group learning. You can go look this up over at conduitforaction.org. They called group learning something else, a new phrase, a new buzzword, like, I can't remember, preferred cooperative learning initiative or groups or whatever. It was just group learning. But because they used that specific phrase and put the specific phrase in the bill, and this company is the only one that uses that specific phrase, they get a no-bid contract. Here you go. You're the only ones that can do this thing that we've been doing forever, which is called group learning, which doesn't work out very well, by the way. So we're watching right now education become an industrialized complex. Just letting you know that. But listen to this. This is from the article, the Springdale School Choice Fair. After you've identified some schools that appear to be a good fit for your child, visit those schools. Wolf said, have your child shadow students there. I found in my research that parents who visit more than one school before making a school choice tend to be much more satisfied with the school they select because it's a more informed choice. Now, this is a concept in education that it should be very basic, but we don't have that, right? And the whole time I'm reading this article, I'm thinking,
and maybe, I guess I'm uninformed, have things really changed? I thought you had to jump through 10,000 hoops to not go to the district that you live in. I think in many places that's still the case. If you don't want to go to the school district where you live, you got to jump through some hoops to get there. Anyway, school choice is a good thing. It's National School Choice Week. Let's look at the Reform Alliance, shall we? This is the Facebook page for the Reform Alliance. They are an integral part of what we need to do here in Arkansas to get more school choice for our parents, for our students, for the betterment of education. I want to remind you that tonight, this is actually National School Choice Week, and tonight you can go to the Mosaic Church in Little Rock, and you can hear Dr. Howard Fuller, who we had on the program on Thursday, and Dr. Patrick Wolf, who, by the way, is so underutilized. Dr. Wolf is so underutilized in this state. He is an Arkansas resident, I believe, up at U of A, working on this issue, and he goes all over the country speaking about school choice. And this guy is just, you very rarely hear. He's very rarely used. Anyway, we're going to get Dr. Wolf on to the program soon. So that's at 6 p.m. tonight. You can hear a debate about school choice with Dr. Patrick Wolf, Dr. Howard Fuller, and he's coming into Dr. Fuller's coming into Little Rock. Then tomorrow, January 24th, National School Choice Week. You have an 11 a.m. event. Let me see here. Hang on one second. I'm going to have to open these so I can get a little bit more specific. So at the Arkansas State Capitol, okay, tomorrow they're having a rally there. Hang on, let me look at the details of this. Reform Alliance will be hosting a rally at the State Capitol on January 24th. Lunch provided. Hear from parents, students, and members of your community. Be sure to take pictures and add your hashtag, okay? This is a big deal. Then on the 25th, we have another event that's scheduled. This is going to be Thursday, hosted by, the Reform Alliance, 11:45 a.m., and it's going to be celebrating National School Choice Week. Here from parents, students, members of the community. Be sure to take pictures and hashtag AR18NSCW. This is going to be the Thursday event, 11:45 to 12:45 at the KIPP, the KIPP Central Campus in Blytheville, Arkansas. So you can check that out. And then if you go to the actual website, check this out. Go to the actual Reform Alliance website here. You can see, they'll talk about things. If you don't know anything about school choice, if I'm honest, it's probably one of the least topics we cover it the least, right? Think about this. The concept of choice, isn't that synonymous with a word that we all love to talk about as conservatives called freedom? Right? Freedom. Freedom is choice. And many people, and I know you have to jump through hoops and things like that, but many people are opting out. Many people are opting out of the traditional systems because they just don't have a good feeling about it anymore. And, there may be some parents out there right now who want to know more about what this is. And you need to check out the reformalliance.org. That's the reformalliance.org, providing educational freedom to all Arkansans. And I want to use this opportunity to do a little flashback, okay? If you go to this article, Joe, throw this up on the screen, conduitforaction.org, Week 2 Legislative Scorecard. This was an amazing time back in 2017 where CFA was putting out scorecards every week of legislation that was on the radar. It's a very daunting task because you have legislation being filed constantly at the Marble Palace. And you can't catch everything, but this is what you caught. And on week number 2, the school choice bill that failed in a miserable embarrassment to Republicans was actually scored in week number 2 on the scorecard. This was Representative Jim Dotson's bill under education. And Conduit for Action supports efforts to expand school choice and efforts to make public education competitive and effective.
with educating its students to be competitive and productive citizens as its only mission. It is the position of CFA that a successful workforce training effort in a state is simply an effective and successful K-12 education for its students. So you don't need this workforce education. Your workforce education should be the first 13 years that the institution, the school, has them, okay? And so this was Representative Jim Dotson's bill, House Bill 1222, and superintendents across this state lied about it. Not all of them, but a lot of them did. And they told the teachers, and then you had the teacher lounge. Basically, it's kind of like, I don't know if you know this, but my wife's a teacher. My mom was a teacher. Well, right now my wife's a stay-at-home mom, but you know, the teachers lounge is like it's like something equivalent to the Pony Express in terms of like that's where information gets delivered, and then it spreads like wildfire throughout the education system. But this bill would have created an income tax credit for donations to nonprofits that distribute education savings accounts to parents for use against the cost of tuition, tutoring services, and related costs of attending non-public schools and higher education institutions. It was a very small step of school choice. This is a school choice bill that will unleash the opportunity for students to succeed in Arkansas. This bill will allow educational opportunities outside of the traditional government-run public school system. And Republicans caved, and they couldn't get it passed because Republican legislators were not able to, not enough of them were able to basically talk to their superintendents and say, no, you're wrong. This is not what you say it is. And it really is a tragedy. It was another example of the massive Republican majorities down there failing us and deviating from the key plank of school choice that's in the Republican Party platform. You're listening to Conduit News Radio, National School Choice Week. That's what's going on. We got to take a break. Back in a minute.
In Arkansas, every single hour there is a politician not getting what they want. For some, it's an absolute nightmare. The sleepless nights wondering if progress will ever come. Lying awake pondering how to grow government in this political climate. Asking questions like, why don't my constituents want to pay a few cents more in taxes? Everyday politicians feel abused and neglected. These politicians are starving for power. They're hungry, confused, and they don't understand why no one seems to care. Will you be a patriot and commit today to help these poor, starved for power public officials? It's simple. All you have to do is commit to stay silent and never dissent or stand in the way of your politicians' rise to power. Never speak up or get engaged to stop the growth of government. By committing to these simple steps, you will ensure the life of your politician will be filled with contentment and the respect they are desperately seeking, as well as campaign contributions from lobbyists.
This message brought to you by Aristocrats Serving Arkansas.
PHP Parody.
Need your daily news fix? Don't forget to tune in to Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right, good morning to you. As we're approaching the 7 o'clock hour, my name is Paul. Feel free, you can give me a text message, or you can call us, 870-275-9799. It's 870-275-9799. Sorry. Coming up, top of the next hour, we will be talking with small business owner, Jacksonville, Arkansas native, R.D. Hopper will be joining us from Sonny's Auto Salvage, his business in Jacksonville. We're going to talk about the tire tax that was passed on all of us by Arkansas Republicans last session. Going to give another recap of that. And then, at the bottom of the next hour, check this out for a second. Big news. That's all I can tell you. No, I can tell you more. State Representatives Dan Sullivan and Josh Miller have a big announcement. They're going to break some news at 7:33 right here on Conduit News Radio. All right? So certainly want to stay tuned for that. And we have let me see here. Robert in Pope County, who's listening on KARV and probably heard our investigative report on, the lobbyists that were supporting and funding, candidate in the special election, Breanne Davis. We broke that down at 6, and there's going to be a separate video made. It'll be circulated. Just go to facebook.com/Conduit News. Be looking for it. But Robert asks this from Pope County. Paul, one question that needs to be asked every candidate right up front is, are you for or against globalization? This will save 75% of the vetting time. Robert, you may be onto something, my friend. Also, I want to ask, coming up here at 7:05, I want to ask R.D. Hopper about this quote from the Senate President Pro Temp, Jonathan Dismang, a Republican from Beebe, who back in 2013 was one of the lead guys saying, we've got to implement Obamacare here in Arkansas, but we need to call it a private option. We got to name it something different so you'll be confused. Then, of course, you have Asa that gets in, and everybody figured out what the private option was. They figured out it was Obamacare. So what does Asa do? He renames it again. Wow, he thinks that we're morons. But this old quote from Senator Jonathan Dismang, September 16th of 2013, where he said this, quote, I have no interest in turning the DHS budget into an all-or-nothing political game. If the DHS appropriation cannot attain the needed votes with the private option included, then it will be pulled, amended, and voted separately. Wow, what a quote. What a quote that he's going to totally ignore, because if you separated the funding, Obamacare Arkansas Works would fail, and DHS would get funded. Wow. Well, it's not a guarantee that it would fail, by the way, because you have some of these politicians that would say, well, I don't have an election for a while. I don't have to worry about it. I'll keep it going for the hospitals. I'll keep it going for the insurance companies and that sort of thing. Anyway, we got Mr. R.D. Hopper coming up next, and I'll ask him that question, as well as we're talking the tire tax. So don't go anywhere, folks. Don't go anywhere. Good morning to you. We'll be back in just a moment.
Northeast Arkansas. This is News Talk 101.3 FM and 12:30 AM KBTM, Jonesboro, an EAB radio station.
There's nothing better than when a politician throws around Bible verses. So this prayer, again, Jim Hendren saying, Lord, let us do what's right by the people. I agree. Let us seek your will. I agree. You know, it's possible, by the way. I have no idea, but it's possible that it's God's will for the program to end. It's possible, you know. And God certainly is sovereign over these things. In many cases, well, in all cases, He's sovereign over it. You know, the things that we think. I mean, you know, God was sovereign over President Obama being put in office. He was sovereign over President Trump being put in office. He was sovereign over Asa Hutchinson being put in office. Right. So scroll down for a second. So Janet Crow, a friend of mine, friend of the show, she responded to this tweet. God, dear God, please don't let us be like Congress. She responds to the tweet and just says, too late, meaning you guys are already like Congress. And so then Senator Jim Hendren replies back, as you see here on the screen, and says, bless you, Janet, Luke 6:28. So, if you look at the context, you go to Luke 6:28. We go to 27 first. But I say to you who hear, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who abuse you. So Senator Hendren is saying here that he is blessing Janet because he felt cursed by her saying too late, meaning you already are like Congress. So what we can infer from this is that Senator Hendren interpreted that as Janet cursing at him or cursing him, you already are like Congress. And so Jim wanted Janet to know that he was blessing her and obeying biblical commandments. From just generally speaking, that's the interaction that took place on Twitter this weekend.
And, okay, so it also says love your enemies. So does Jim Hendren see Janet as an enemy?
I mean, maybe, you know. I don't know. I think it's
a really look. That's honestly a really poor response.
Well, I mean, feel free, give us your opinion, Joe. Why?
Well, from a legislator standpoint, why would you cite this Bible verse? Like, I don't mind him citing a Bible verse, but why this one? It makes you seem like, one, you feel personally attacked by the fact that she said that you're too late. You already look like that. Like, you already look like Congress. And bless your or love your enemy. Why would you say possibly that, like, I don't know where Janet lives, possibly one of your constituency is an enemy? Why would you say anyone's an enemy? Like, why would you openly just go, hey? It just makes you look really weird.
Yeah.
Dumb.
I mean, certainly, you know, enemy is a strong word. Certainly, I mean, the policy, we're in opposite corners on policy. I mean, you know, there's no question that's the case.
Yeah,
but I don't wish anybody ill. I mean, like, as much as I disagree with Asa, and as much as I think he needs to lose this next election, and as much as I think Senator Jim Hendren doesn't need to be the president of the Senate as the governor's nephew, not to mention they're moving Arkansas towards the left, and they're disguising it as that there's some, you know, like they're conservatives or the next Ronald Reagan or something. As much as I disagree, I don't wish them any ill will in terms of, you know. I don't think of them as an enemy in the way you would think of them as an enemy.
Yeah, but
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
and just because someone disagrees with you doesn't automatically make them your enemy.
Yeah,
like, and that's a problem that we have currently today.
Now, the stakes get a little high. If I'm honest, the stakes do get a little higher for me, and we got to take a break when you start to think about the liberty, the future freedoms and liberties for your kids being diminished because politicians in elected office today can't understand that progressivism, collectivism, and the path to socialism is the enemy of this country, because you are condemning future generations to less freedom. Now then the stakes do get a little higher, and I think that's why I get so worked up and you know, want to stop these guys. I want to stop what they want for this state. I want it to go the opposite way. We got to take a break. Back in a minute. This is actually a great critique. So I have a listener.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the founding fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
All right, folks, welcome. Hour number 2. I neglected to mention in the first hour that on Thursday evening, I'm going to join Conduit for action over in Mississippi County, and that's going to be at 7 o'clock at the Bush Thornton Building, 1594 South Division Street in Blytheville. It's not Blytheville, it's Blytheville, actually, Blytheville. That's how you say it. Anyway, come learn about the Arkansas legislature, the regular session from last year, including voting records of legislators. If you want to check that out, that's where I'll be on Thursday. So feel free to come out and meet some Mississippi County Republicans. And I'm looking forward to being there. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, all right. Joining me now, we have the great R.D. Hopper is with us, who is an Arkansas business owner and a patriot. He's from Sonny's Auto Salvage. That's his business. R.D., welcome back to the program, sir.
Hey, good morning, Paul. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing very well. I wanted to have you on because you as an auto salvage guy, you were intricately following what happened a year ago when the Republican majority General Assembly, along with the governor, supported a tire tax, an increase in a current tire tax and a brand new tire tax. And I just wanted to maybe get an update from you on that, as well as feel free to educate our listeners about if they maybe don't know what transpired a year ago.
Well, Paul, it was more than a tire tax. They created a whole new branch of government that didn't exist before. If you read the bill, I believe, Bill 67, if you read the bill, they created a whole new branch of government. The sole purpose is to track all the used tires in the state of Arkansas. And they have tire users and generators, that all these people that they're going to track, the electronic tracking system. So they're going to have to hire hundreds of people if they implement this. Hundreds of people. It's a electronic state database. Cities, counties, construction companies, tire companies, anybody that uses tires is going to put in how many tires they generate, what type of tires, whether it's a backhoe tire or whether it's a big truck tire or just a smaller forklift tire. Put in the type of tire that they generate and how many they've generated this month and how many that they've turned into a collection facility. Now, so after they created this whole new branch of government, then they've got to fund it, of course, and you always want at least 40 or 50% extra to go in the general fund. But they fund it through it's not a tire tax, it's a tire removal and installation fee. It's a fee, Paul. It's not a tax. Let's get it right. And so
that's what the governor's that's what the governor's going around saying. It's not a tax, it's a fee, and
right,
and he's saying it was to solve a problem. I mean, he's excusing it. It's the way it was explained to me. He was up in Washington County, and he was excusing the tire tax increase because it was to solve a problem. Now, okay. I mean, one of those problems that they claimed that was in the bill was to protect us from mosquitoes.
Yeah, that's crazy. All you have to do to a tire to protect you from mosquito, and that's the only thing a tire is dangerous about. This bill makes mosquitoes worse, and it makes this place more dangerous, and I'll explain that. But the only thing danger about a tire, the problem that they're claiming exists, is a tire holds water. If you take a tire and cut it in 4 pieces, it no longer holds water, and it is safe. I have such a tool, and I cut all my tires in 4 pieces to make sure that I don't do that. So a small piece of machinery that will cut tires solves the problem. You do not need a whole branch of government. It's funny, they shred these tires up, they put them on playground, and they let our little 3-year and 5-year-old children play on the tires in the playground. If they're so dangerous, why do they let our kids play on them?
I've often wondered if the future here was to because this was an Arkansas Department of Environmental Quality goal. I mean, they were, if memory serves, they were supporting this new government expansion. Eventually they want that cradle-to-grave tire tracking system. So you think eventually there'll be some sort of private, end quote, company that will get a lucrative contract to have to manage all this stuff?
5 of them. Read the bill. There's 5. There'll be 5 cronies. Excuse me there, but there'll be 5 cronies that get special equipment. The goal is not to put any more tires in the ground. It has nothing to do with public health. This is some kind of global warming thing about putting tires in the ground, which they're perfectly safe above the ground if they're cut in 4 pieces. And then we will pay some company to come to Arkansas, and we'll pay them to come to Arkansas, and they'll generate electricity from all the tires that we've got all these fees to, and we can pay them to do recycling. This is a Democratic agenda. This has got, Obama written all over it as far as creating another branch of government. So we will fund something really cool with taxpayers' money. I lobbied against this bill along with John Payton. We've got 10 tire districts in Arkansas approximately. We're going to cut it down to 5. Tires cannot be hauled unless they are hauled on a certified state-inspected truck. And the driver of the truck hauling the tires has to be trained with the Arkansas tracking system. And every business and construction company in the state of Arkansas is supposed to have a certified person and a account to log all their tires under. Of course, all of this is not going to work. The Department of Justice can't even keep up with all the total lost cars in the United States of America. If Arkansas thinks they're going to track all the tires in our state, that's all just a farce to get to more government, more state employees. And the tire fee right now, John Payton looked into it. The tire fee, the little old bitty tire fee we were paying before, only about 40 or 50% of that money was going to a tire program. It seemed like that a large majority of that money, or a large portion of that money, was going into general revenue. If you know what that means.
Yeah, of course. Well, we got to have as much money as we can. It's interesting. What you're describing really is a nightmare scenario for limited government Republicans to see their governor and the General Assembly support something. Anytime a tax increase is on the table, it's a bad deal. Politicians push for tax increases when they don't have the guts to actually govern. But this was even worse, because it'd be one thing if you raise taxes on gasoline to pay for roads. We already know how to build roads. Basically everything. I mean, I would be against it, but you understand. But this is a tax increase and creating an entirely new area of government that we're going to have to fund forever in the future. And so it's really it's a tragedy. I would describe most of what Republicans have done down there as a tragedy, because they have let so many of us down that believe they actually thought limiting government and shrinking government was, the way to go and what they were going to do. And instead, they are growing government and raising our taxes at the same time.
Yeah, faster than I can keep up with. I tell you what, you get rid of one tax for a period of time and place of it for eternity.
Oh, yeah. Did we? Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
but this is a whole new program here that will go on forever.
No doubt. And so let me just ask you this. We got to have all this money, and you were talking about how some of this is kind of dishonest, misleading. This money, some of it is just going to the general fund because we got to have the money. We are in a budget. We have got a serious budget problem in this state, and yet the governor continues to increase spending. Over $600 million in the last 4 years he's been here, and yet, we have this Medicaid expansion gorilla that's just hanging out on the Capitol Dome. Nobody wants to talk about it, or very few people want to talk about it, and we're coming up on the fiscal session, RD. So the question I wanted to ask you is this. Back in 2013, Senator Jonathan Dismang, who was a lead sponsor for the private option and was promising everybody all this stuff, and he's still held up as a credible source of, being able to predict what this program is and going to be, even though he's wrong every single time. Back in 2013, he said this about the fiscal aspect of it. He said, quote, "I have no interest in turning the DHS budget into an all-or-nothing political game. If the DHS appropriation cannot attain the needed votes, with the private option included, then it will be pulled, amended, and voted on separately." Now, I don't expect him to go by his own word because he didn't in 2016, and so now here we are. So, RD, what do you think is going to happen, and what do you think about this whole thing?
They are married to this billions of dollars coming from the federal government. It's free money. We've got approximately $7 billion a year free money coming to the state every year. The state taxes that money to administrate it, and as you know, they're going to. Our establishment in Little Rock is going to fight to keep that $7 billion coming into the state of Arkansas tooth and nail, and we've not been able to kill it since then. Our health insurance, mine's gone up 74% since Dismang made that promise. That Dismang's promise was about equal to Barack Obama's promise. He also promised it's going to be somewhere around 150,000 people, if I remember it. It's been up to 330,000 people. So socialism cannot be conservative no matter what kind of lipstick you put on the pig. Medicaid expansion is a way to get people not to have to get up and go to work every morning. They've got insurance if they go to work or not. So we're creating more government, and we're incentivizing people not to work. That's what we elected the Republicans to do.
You've been so sarcastic. You've a couple times picked up on your sarcasm. I love it. We're talking with R.D. Hopper.
Well, I worked till 3 o'clock. I worked till 2 o'clock in the morning yesterday, and I only worked till midnight last night. And I'm on my way to work right now. So we've got a lot of weight we got to carry, and we got to make sure that they don't put us out of business, no matter how hard they try.
I know, and that's the conservative attitude. When the government grows or they raise our taxes, a hardworking conservative says, "Well, I'll just work an extra, X number of hours this week to try to make up for it," and that's good, and that's great work ethic. But hopefully, we've got people that are going to vote differently and quit voting some of these people who are really, Democrats or progressives or liberals in, and they're just using the Republican name to get power. I will say this, one more question on Medicaid expansion, or just feel free to respond to it. Finally, 2 weeks ago, Cindy Gillespie admitted that less people on the program saves Arkansas money, because now Arkansas actually has to pay for these people in some regard. And so that got a question asked of her, will you give us the numbers on how much we save if we just end it altogether, defund the program in the program? And so now the administration, Hutchinson administration, they're between a rock and a hard place because they want to keep the program. And so what are they going to report? Are the numbers going to be accurate? I don't think they're going to be accurate. And now you have the governor's spokesperson going on, essentially insinuating that, less people on the program are going to save the state money, but if we end it, it'll cost us money. I mean, how can they have it both ways, RD?
Well, the way they justify it is the $7 billion that comes in every year, we get to tax that, so that's more money in general revenue. So, more money coming to the state means the state has more money, and bigger government means more savings and more jobs. I can't think like they do, but this is the bottom line. From business, the more people that you get in a system, in a line of a product, the more people in the line of the product, the more expensive the product is. It's simple math. So right now, between taxpayers and someone that needs care, we've got an insurance company getting 25% in between the tax person and someone that we want to help. So so the cost of taking care of the needy went up 25% whenever they created this Barack Obama Medicaid expansion nightmare. So it costs 25% more for private option because the insurance company gets 25%. Before Barack Obama, we simply gave the hospitals a tax cut when they took care of a needy person, and we paid for the service. So we need to go back to a fee for the service for taking care of the needy and tell the insurance companies to get their 25% straight from someone that made the conscious choice to give them 25% instead of robbing us with a gun.
R.D. Hopper is very well said. The government does have the guns from Sonny's Auto Salvage. I appreciate it, sir. Thank you for shedding light on the tire tax, where we are today, and we'll do it again soon.
All right. I just ask the people out there, before you vote in upcoming elections, please see where the person you're voting for stands on Medicaid expansion and Obamacare. They're not going to tell you unless you ask.
That's exactly right. R.D. Hopper. I appreciate it, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, folks, we're going to take a break, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Protecting your business means protecting your data. But is your business really prepared to handle the growing threat of things like cybercriminals and ransomware? At iTex, they're committed to deploying the best security solutions to protect your business and your bottom line. Security threats are constantly evolving. So are security needs. Be proactive now and equip your business with the best cybersecurity available with iTex. Call them today for a free consultation at 870-336-9778. That's 870-336-9778 or itexusa.com. If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is building a liberty machine. Find out more at conduitnews.com.
Coming up at the bottom of this hour, 7:33, we'll be talking with State Representative Dan Sullivan and State Representative Josh Miller, and they will be breaking some news. They will have some big news to talk about, and that's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Seriously, let's talk a little bit about this this old article here. I don't think I have it pulled up for you, Joe. Hang on one second. I'm going to send it to you real quick so that you can show our listeners who are watching at facebook.com/Conduit News. This is an article by Jason Tolbert from September 16th of 2013, posted on talkbusiness.net, Talk Business and Politics. And the headline here is that private option funding and the DHS budget. And this is where we get the quote from Senator Jonathan Dismang. Quote, "I have no interest in turning the DHS budget into an all-or-nothing political game. If the DHS appropriation cannot attain the needed votes with the private option included, then it will be pulled, amended, and voted separately." Now, this was a hard choice last time for folks. See, Jonathan Dismang ignored that statement from 2013, didn't make good on it in 2016, which put the Senate in a bit of a gridlock. The Senate didn't have the 75% threshold that they needed to spend money, which is a constitutional requirement. And so you had a guy who, I guess basically, Senator Bart Hester, for example. Senator Bart Hester ended up saying, well, I'm against it. I'm against funding it. But I'll go along with the governor's line item veto scheme, and I'll vote for something that I know he's going to undo instead of holding the line. Senator Bart Hester said, "Nah, I'm gonna vote for a bill that technically I can tell people did what I wanted it to do, but it's on the governor. It's on the governor. He's the one that did the line item veto scheme." So that was the whole situation they were in, and they were in that because Jonathan Dismang did not keep his word, according to this Jason Tolbert article from 2013. Again, I have no interest in turning the DHS budget into an all-or-nothing political game. If the DHS appropriation cannot attain the needed votes with the private option included, then it will be pulled, amended, and voted separately. I just think we should have that vote, don't you? This is the president of the Senate, the president pro temp of the Senate, Jonathan Dismang, Senator Dismang, who sold this to everybody as a Republican, trying to say it's not Obamacare. This is the conservative alternative. Anyway, can we just end this thing? Is it too much to ask to end it? Speaking of Senator Bart Hester going along with the governor's line item veto scheme, here's what Bart Hester said on the campaign trail.
I'm Bart Hester. I'm the senator from Benton County. On both sides of the ticket, that's what we campaign on. I will. I won't. I promise. What we don't campaign on is sometimes, usually, maybe, if the governor does this, if a lobbyist pressure be this way, if my mayor calls, maybe sometimes, right? We need candidates when the going gets tough, and it's tough. We'll remember that I will and I won't.
That is the difference, ladies and gentlemen, between campaigning, because Senator Bart Hester was campaigning actually for a bunch of Republicans who were trying to beat Democrat incumbents. That is the difference between campaign rhetoric and, well, if the governor does this, if the governor does that. Listen, these guys, they wait for their instructions every morning. I don't know, it's probably like an old communication. It's probably like ICQ. But they wait for governor to, tell me what to do. Am I supposed to jump today? In the way you would think of them as an enemy.
Yeah, but
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and just because someone disagrees with you doesn't automatically make them your enemy.
Yeah.
And that's a problem that we have currently today.
Now, the stakes get a little high. If I'm honest, the stakes do get a little higher for me, and we got to take a break. When you start to think about the liberty, the future freedoms and liberties for your kids being diminished because politicians in elected office today can't understand that progressivism, collectivism, and the path to socialism is the enemy of this country, because you are condemning future generations to less freedom. Now then the stakes do get a little higher, and I think that's why I get so worked up and want to stop these guys. I want to stop what they want for this state. I want it to go the opposite way. We got to take a break. Back in a minute. This is actually a great critique. So I have a listener who's listening to us analyze Senator Jim Hendren tweeting a prayer about not looking like Congress, and we're inferring that means not to shut down the government or not fund DHS, which is a possibility in the upcoming fiscal session if they don't have the votes from true conservatives, to continue Arkansas Works. When he said, "My prayer as we prepare for the fiscal session, Lord, let us do what's right for the people. Let us seek your will. Let us do what's best regardless of political consequences. And please, dear God, let us never look like Congress." Okay. And then you have Janet Crow scrolling down on this tweet. She says, "Too late." And then he says, "Bless you, Janet," Luke 6:28, which is the Bible verse saying, hey, love your enemies, bless those who curse you. And so listen to this critique of what he said. This is fantastic. Listener writes in and says, "So he prays for God's will to be done, then Bible jukes someone who critiques. Sounds like he's convinced God's will is his will. The prayer was for show, or he's trying to guilt people into agreeing with him by being the spiritual one." Interesting how that can come across. Now, it's a very interesting text, listener. But yeah, and that's why I said earlier, okay, pray for God's will to be done, but are you willing to accept if it's God's will for Arkansas Works to not get funded, or DHS to not get funded, or the government in D.C. to shut down, or the government in Arkansas to get shut down, or Asa Hutchinson to lose a primary to Jan Morgan? I mean, that's an interesting question. I mean, I'm okay with it because,
Bringing you your daily dose of truth. It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right, here we go. Welcome to the program. We got some breaking news. We have State Representative Josh Miller on the line from District 66 and State Representative Dan Sullivan on the line from District 53. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. Good morning to you.
Thanks for having us, Paul.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's get to the breaking news. You guys, in the fiscal session, you guys want to freeze the Medicaid expansion enrollment. That's going to have to start, I understand it, with a resolution. And I understand State Representative Josh Miller, you're going to sponsor that resolution. Tell us about the process and why you want to do this.
You bet, Paul. We ran this bill last year, the Medicaid expansion enrollment freeze, where it just simply, the bill is a very simple bill and directs DHS to file these waiver requests. But it passed the House. It didn't pass the Senate. The governor had a special session. We got the legislature to pass several other reform bills that were in the form of waivers that needed to be granted by the federal government. Those have not been put in place yet. And so we still feel like this is a good opportunity to work with those reforms that the governor wanted to do to scale back our Medicaid expansion program. Sorry, I got a frog in my throat. But in order to do it in the fiscal session, we have to have a joint resolution passed in both chambers, or not a joint resolution, but a resolution passed in both chambers that requires a 2/3 majority vote in order for the bill to be brought up. And Representative Sullivan and I just want to put it back out there, and we want to give folks the opportunity to join with us to help us save our budget. Basically, is the way I look at it.
Yeah, to help us save our budget. I think that's a very noble goal. State Representative Dan Sullivan, just talk a little bit about the motivation behind this.
Sure, Paul. Thank you. You know, Obamacare was a progressive idea, and it was based upon a progressive foundation. And Arkansas Works, those that supported it, some supported it because they said they wanted a single-payer system. Progressives did. Many conservatives supported it because they said they wanted to make lemonade out of lemons. But, you know, the times have changed now, but the progressive foundation, you know, would lead and is leading to something the state can't afford. At the federal level, we've decided we can't afford that. So, you know, Josh and I just think it's time, and, you know, if we continue with the Arkansas Works the way it is, it's based on that progressive foundation. So as long as we do that, we kind of enroll now and vet later, you know, that's not a physically sound principle. So we think it's time to go back to kind of freeze the enrollment and go back with a more conservative foundation and build this. You know, we've been going through a lot recently with procurement systems in the state of Arkansas and how we do our contracts, working with that division. You know, our procurement system, they want clawback. They want deliverables. They want targets up front. You know, we would be looking for a new director of procurement if we had the same contract system with other contracts the state does that we have with the insurance companies. I won't go into any detail later, but, you know, again, it's time to build our system on something that's physically sound, on conservative principles, just like what's going on at the federal level. And we can't do that through Arkansas Works that has a progressive foundation.
Right. So kind of flashing back here, State Representative Josh Miller, you guys did run this bill last year to cap or freeze the enrollment. That's a very useful tool, just budgetarily, because you have now a knowable cost, and then as people cycle off the program, they don't get back on. And it did pass out of public health, you know, out of the House, and then of course it didn't go anywhere after that. The governor didn't support it. The governor's office testified against it, so he's clearly not a fan of getting a fixed knowable cost of what the program's going to be. So you do this resolution. It's you know, I think it is an uphill battle in terms of who's going to support it, but it does give people the opportunity to go on the record and to say, hey, I think it's a good idea that we freeze enrollment, right? I mean, so there's going to be a vote on the resolution, correct?
Yes, sir. There will be. We're getting those. The resolutions will be filed this week. Senator Gary Stubblefield is going to be the Senate sponsor.
Good.
And we just want folks to know that we're using the tools that are available in the fiscal session. This normally isn't the top issues that would be brought up, and we understand that, but these avenues and these tools are provided to the legislators in the Constitution, and we want to use that because Representative Sullivan and I have talked and we've looked at it, and the state of Arkansas simply cannot afford to keep going down this path that we're heading down right now. Everybody knows we have a highway problem. Everybody knows we have a crime problem. We're not able to keep enough bad guys, prisoners locked up, and the main reason for that is money. And when folks look at our budget, they see the biggest thing that where money keeps going away is in Medicaid, and this is one thing that we can do to hopefully, you know, help wind wind that back, and like Representative Sullivan said, to get us more in line with what's going on at the federal level. And so that's the main objective.
So,
and Paul, let me jump in here just a second. Josh and I both travel our district to talk to people. Our Kansans just want a simple response to what's going on. They want simple answers. They want straightforward answers. They don't want to spin. They don't want line item vetoes. They don't want Washington-style politics where we pass a bill where we're forced to decide between supporting our veterans or having an internet tax. So we're combining those. That's just not what our Kansans expect of their government. They want us to be straightforward. This is a progressive idea. Arkansas works as a progressive foundation. It's time to change that.
So let me read you this quote. Senate President Jonathan Dismang in 2013 said this: "I have no interest in turning the DHS budget into an all-or-nothing political game. If the DHS appropriation cannot attain the needed votes with the private option included, then it will be pulled, amended, and voted on separately." Obviously, he didn't adhere to that in 2016. But, I mean, to your point, Dan Sullivan, Arkansans do just want something that's straightforward. So, I mean, wouldn't it be nice if the funding was separated? And it's a controversial issue. Let's just have the people's will done. Let's get these guys on the record. Do you support this? Do you not support it? And let's see where we go from there.
And that's true, and it's no different. Again, you can call it a fee, you can call it a tax. The bottom line is the people are paying more, and Arkansans are wising up to that. It's going on more at the federal level. And nationally, you're seeing people that are just tired of the spin. They're tired of the way that goes, and Arkansans more so. Let's just be straightforward with the people. Let's go with an up or down vote, separate them. Let's go with a freeze or not, and let's give that opportunity to the legislature to consider this in a straightforward, upright manner, so the citizens know where their legislators stand.
I agree with that.
What they say.
So I know you guys may not know all of this, but there generally seems to be the same House members and the same senators that'll vote against the wishes of the status quo concerning this. And I'm wondering, is that changing at all? Are you guys getting commitments maybe from people that maybe normally wouldn't get commitments from, or is it kind of the same old people who are going to support ending this?
Well, Paul, I think your listeners have a lot to say about that. They need to call their folks up and get in contact with their legislators and let them know how to vote. That's what they're supposed to do, is represent their district. Sorry, Josh.
No, that's true, Dan. I would say we obviously have been in contact with a lot of the folks who have been consistently conservative with their voting records. But then also, I know at least in the House, there's a few other folks that have kind of surprised me that said they were open to supporting the measure or the resolution. And so I'm looking forward to it. I think, it's not a matter. It's not as much of a debate, I guess, maybe as it was in 2013 about whether or not we were going to expand, and we had free money back then and all this kind of stuff. Folks now see the course that we're on with our spending with Medicaid expansion. And it's just simply not sustainable. I think the governor's office sees it. I think a lot of legislators see it. And so this is an opportunity for us to do something about it that we don't believe that the federal government will hold up for a year before they allow us to implement.
Yeah. It's really, really interesting that, there are some other people potentially coming around to the idea. I think that's really good. The argument that, I think you guys are going to face, and again, the breaking news here, state representatives Dan Sullivan, Josh Miller, they're announcing that they're going forward with the fiscal session in a push to freeze Medicaid expansion enrollment, to freeze the enrollment so we have a noble cost. And in order to do that, you have to have a resolution and get 2/3 support out of both chambers. So it is an uphill battle. But I first of all, I just want to commend you guys for doing this. I think it's a big deal. I love the fact that you said, hey, some people are going to say this isn't what the fiscal session is for, but constitutionally we do have the authority to do it if we go through the right process. And I'm a huge fan of legislators using all of the power they have that the people have given them, that the law prescribes to them, to do what the people want you to do. The arguments against this, though, are going to be, well, wait. We've got work requirements coming. We've got Trump's going to grant our waiver and just wait for it. And in all probability, they may have already done it and the governor hasn't announced it yet. So are you guys prepared for that argument of, no, we'll have part-time work requirements and it's going to make things better all of a sudden?
Yeah, Paul, this is not an either or. It's not waivers or free. This is a both and. If we are able to pass this bill and freeze enrollment, and the feds give the state those waivers, the legislature passed those. Mm-hmm. The governor made the request, but Josh and I think we both voted for them. But it's not one or the other. It's a conservative method is to freeze enrollment and have work requirements and have those other waivers. So it's not like we have to do one or the other.
Yeah, they don't oppose each other. That's a really good. Yeah. They would technically work together. That's a good point. You agree with that, State Representative Josh Miller?
You bet. There's no reason at all not to do all of it. I know. Last year that was one of the things that I kept talking about in my push, trying to get it passed, trying to get this free enrollment freeze bill passed. Out of the House last year was, hey, that we can do this and we can do whatever other conservative reform items that the governor or whoever else wants to do. I am open to supporting all of it because, like we were just talking about, we're just on an unsustainable path right now, and so here is a very easy step in. Are very easy part of the process to get us going in the right direction. And so I would just encourage folks to be in touch with your legislators if you think that Obamacare, Medicaid expansion that we still have here in Arkansas that's got us on a financially we're bound for a financial train wreck with this in our budget, and we have an opportunity to do something about it this year.
Paul, let me throw one thing in. I know you're getting close to having to leave, but here's the full truth. When Arkansas paid 0% and the Fed paid 100%, no one really cared or acted like they cared much how many people enrolled. But all of a sudden, as Arkansas's percentage came up, it went up to 5%, it's going to go up to 10%. Who knows? The president and the Congress may decide to make it go 15 or 20. We don't know.
Yeah.
When that happens, the burden on Arkansas is going to be so oppressive, we will not be able to afford it. It's time now to go to good conservative principles, which this helps us do, and this is the right time to do it.
Real quick, I want to ask you, Representative Dan Sullivan, a couple of weeks ago, Cindy Gillespie admitted that the less people on the program, the better it is for the state. Now, from the governor's office, I'm seeing some, telegraphing that, they may say, well, less people on the program is more money, but if we end the program, that'll cost us money. That doesn't make any sense. I understand that Cindy Gillespie, her department's supposed to get you a number or get somebody a number of what the total savings would be if we ended the program. Have you heard anything from their office yet? Are they given a number yet?
Not yet, but that's where the discussion is going to be. We have to move in a direction to protect our most vulnerable people. One of the reasons Josh and I are running this bill is we are paying for people who are able-bodied and working age. We're paying their insurance, and we have people who have great needs not getting insurance, not getting care. We need to take that money that we're spending on those folks who are able-bodied and working age and give that and provide care for those that are most in need. We're just not doing that now. we're prioritizing. You hear at the federal level, you hear our president saying we are more interested in the dreamers than we are people that live here. Well, in one sense, it's similar here. We seem to be more interested in paying for health care for able-bodied working age adults than we are for some of our people most in need. And it's time for that to stop.
That's absolutely right.
I appreciate you guys. We are out of time. State Representative Dan Sullivan and State Representative Josh Miller, thank you guys so much for being conservatives, for standing up and doing what the people sent you there to do. A lot of people aren't doing that these days, so I appreciate it, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Encourage your listeners to contact their folks.
Yeah, that's right. Contact your legislators. Exactly. Contact them and tell them to freeze Medicaid enrollment. They have the opportunity to do so. We appreciate it, guys. All right, so, yeah, thank you, guys. All right, so we have that's good. That's very good news. Freezing enrollment. They're going to have an opportunity to vote on that resolution. It is an uphill battle, folks, but, yeah, call your legislators. And I'll tell you this. I get the feeling that if Governor Asa Hutchinson in any way supports the idea of freezing enrollment, all of a sudden now he really wishes he would have thought of something like this first. We have to go to break. 870-275-9799. This is Conduit News Radio. I'm Paul Harrell.
This is ASA News, The Parrot. With breaking news from the Capitol in Little Rock, I'm Bob Maloney. There are reports circling around from politicians who are in the know, and the same phrase keeps being used. That phrase is new revenue generation. Let's go to our reporter on the ground from the Capitol, Haley Hogwash. Haley?
Thanks, Bob. Yes, it seems the more politicians I talk to, the more I hear the phrase new revenue generation. We're trying to figure out exactly what that means, but you can rest assured it will be good for the people of Arkansas.
Haley, it certainly sounds like something good. I like how the phrase uses the word generation. That makes me think this has got to be doing something positive for our children in the future. Haley?
Yes, Bob, some new developments. I've just been speaking to some people who are here and are not politicians, and they tell me the phrase new revenue generation is actually code for a new tax.
Oh, my. Well, if this is true, Haley, that would add to a growing list of new taxes that have barely made any headlines at all, so it's best not to discuss them here on ASA News, The Parrot.
Yes, Bob, I know it's sure to make government officials angry that their phrasing of the new revenue generation has been changed by the people and called a tax increase.
I would expect an announcement from Mother Government soon to set the record straight. What is the new tax? Revenue generation, Haley?
Well, this new tax, a new revenue generation would add to a growing list. First, there was a revenue generation on movies, books, and songs that people download using the internet. And next, there was the tax increase. I'm sorry, Bob, the new revenue generation on all purchases made using the internet. And now I'm told this new revenue generation is a tax on the people's patience.
I realize the people don't like it, Haley, but specifically, what is the new tax? Revenue generation.
No, Bob, I'm telling you, according to the activists here at the Capitol who have gathered and are listening to some radio broadcast, the revenue generation is literally taxing the patience of the people of Arkansas. I'm told the less patience you have with the government
better not tax our patience.
The more they will tax your patience and the more money you will owe at a later date. I'm also told the collection method on taxing your patients will be decided in a newly formed multicolored ribbon task force.
How taxing.
PHP Parody.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is building a liberty machine. Find out more at conduitnews.com.
All right, folks, as we wind things down today, you guys are getting geared up because you guys got the rest of the day to go, to live and to work. And so I appreciate you guys listening, starting the beginning of your morning, beginning of your day, I guess, with us here, the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. To kind of recap what we did on the show today, if you didn't get to listen to the whole thing, you can go to facebook.com/Conduit News and check that out. We talked about, I guess at the bottom of the last hour, for our Conduit for Commerce Policy segment, we discussed that this is National School Choice Week, and we went over a ton of stuff about what's going on, the events that you can go to, the Reform Alliance, why school choice is a big deal, how the Republicans caved on school choice last year. They couldn't get it done, a very simple bill, as well as, listen to a really inspirational video from the Northwest Arkansas School Choice and hearing Lieutenant Governor Tim Griffin speak on that video, as well as a child saying, hey, more choices are better. Earlier in this hour, we talked to R.D. Hopper about the new tire tax and how that's affecting things. And, the fix was in. We just talked to State Representative Dan Sullivan and Josh Miller. They are announcing their plan to freeze enrollment in Medicaid expansion by going through the extra process and getting a resolution with 2/3 so that you can consider something like that during the special session. But then to the very beginning of the show, and we'll be putting out a separate clipped video of what we did at 6:05 this morning, we once again kind of investigated this Senate District 16 special election here in 3 weeks. Between the Republicans are really the only ones that matter. You've got Breanne Davis running against Luke Heffley and running against Bob Bailey. Bob Bailey's been on the show. I've reached out to Luke Heffley on Facebook, haven't heard anything. I've reached out to Breanne Davis. She was scheduled to be on the program before the first of the year, and then she canceled and said she'd get in touch with me after the first of the year. Haven't heard from her yet. So we have this invitation, and it was a fundraising invitation for Breanne Davis back on December the 1st of last year. And there's a long list of people who were hosting this. And so we've got this graphic that is now up at facebook.com/Conduit News. It's on the screen right now for everyone watching, about all of the lobbyists who threw this fundraiser for her. And in our investigations, you find out that there's multiple lobbyists that represent multiple industries. And then there's some that only will represent one. But you have lobbyists for medical marijuana throwing this fundraiser for her, healthcare, big pharma, Medicaid, gambling, alcohol, corporate welfare, internet tax, and tobacco. These are the lobbyists that threw a fundraiser for Breanne Davis. And so I have been personally on a quest to figure out who is the establishment candidate in this race. Bob Bailey's been on the program, says he's not the establishment candidate. He has a position he's against Medicaid expansion. That's about as anti-establishment as you can get in Arkansas. But then you look at the status quo. I mean, lobbying, as I said earlier, there's nothing illegal about lobbying. It's what happens. Businesses hire these people. They try to go in and they try to get a financial niche carved out for them. It's the world we live in. But I find any time there's any sort of activism going on trying to give more power to the people, more freedom to the people, more choice to the people, everybody in the Marble Palace freaks out. And they try to make sure they have candidates who they can control, and that is 100% accurate. But look at the status quo, look at the lobbies, look who they're supporting, look who they're throwing fundraisers for. We did all of that at 6 o'clock and listed the names on this invitation. And anyway, so you can watch out for that or go watch the show, go watch the beginning of the program. Folks, that's all the time we have for today.
Good morning to you. My name is Paul Harrell. This has been Conduit News Radio, Arkansas. Be safe.